Hello, and welcome to this totally brand new, not recycled or anything channel, Wickenden Caterpillar, that totally didn't used to be something else or anything. But for the first video on this not recycled channel, we will be covering the topic of classic creepypastas. I might make this kind of like a series on the channel, and I think I'm probably going to just do one creepypasta per video unless there's two that are really similar and were both popular. But, um, yeah, let's get into it. Today we will be covering Slenderman. He is probably the most popular creepypasta ever, at least like from like the ones that I've seen online. And I actually found this one by just watching random YouTube videos when I was little. Uh, this one's just really nostalgic for me. It was like, I don't think it was the first one I ever saw. I think it was the first one I ever saw was, of all things, Sonic.exe, because I used to be a huge Sonic fan. I was like 4 when I saw that one, so, I, yeah. And also the, Infinity Sonic, or whatever, like, the secret thing in Sonic CD was. Anyways, um, this one actually, yeah, I remember a whole bunch of this one. It caused a whole bunch of real world events that we'll get into later. All right, so some history on Slenderman. He originally appeared 16 years ago on June 10th in 2009 on a Something Awful post. He was created by Eric Knudsen. Sorry if I say that terribly, terribly wrong. But, yeah. Slenderman is what inspired the Enderman in Minecraft, and there were like two really popular games that were created based off him. Um, in the video series Marble Hornets, he is known as the operator, and in other sense, I think he has like 2 movies made. I saw one of them. It's absolutely terrible. I don't see why anyone would want that as a movie. That just kind of completely ruined it. He is usually depicted as a really tall person and also really thin with featureless head, so like no faces or whatever, and he just had a white body and wore a black suit. That was pretty simple appearance. Eric created Slenderman as part of a create paranormal images contest where people are supposed to Photoshop monsters into other existing images. His initial contribution was 2 black and white images of children, and back in the background you could see Slenderman. I will probably put the picture up on screen here. So that's cool. Yeah. Reminder, this is a fictional story. This is not real. People like to say that Slenderman started in ancient Egypt or whatever. I'm not kidding. People actually think that. But I'm pretty sure Eric Knudsen, again, sorry if I say that wrong, is the person who created him. Um, anyways, I'm gonna start actually reading the story. I might stutter a lot or like misspeak. I've never done any content like this before, and I never read out loud because I don't know. It's like really hard to read things out loud for me. I don't know why. I guess I'm just kind of used to reading in my head. But as this series goes on and other series, I'm sure I'll get better at speaking. Anyways, I'll actually start reading now. For real this time. No joke, trust. This is like my second attempt. Anyways, after waking up with a jolt, the girl laid in bed a few seconds longer. Reaching over to switch on her bedside lamp, she tried to remember exactly what had stolen her sweet slumber away. When she couldn't, the brunette swung her legs over the side of the bed and heaved herself up. Checking the time on her phone, she snorted when she saw it was midnight, the witching hour. Knowing that sleep would only evade her, she left her bedroom for the kitchen, a good cup of coffee on her mind. As she passed by her front door, a chill spread like liquid fire down her spine. It's only winter, she told herself, focusing again on the coffee blend. Measuring out scoops, water, and preparing her cup kept her occupied, but as the dark liquid boiled, she had nothing left to keep her mind from wandering off. The chill returned, and she couldn't help but glance behind her to the front door. It stood there innocently enough, just like always. The deadbolt was still in place, and she could see nothing amiss with it. Turning back to her coffee, she did her best to forget about the feeling. With her cup in hand, she started back towards her bedroom. As she walked by the front door, she decided that a quick glance out of the peephole would help calm her mind. The chill worsened with each step she took towards the door and further away from the safety and warmth of her blankets. She pressed her empty hand against the cold metal door and took a deep breath before leaning her eye to the peephole. At first, she could only see an inky blackness and somehow seemed to swirl in itself. When she blinked in surprise, the void melted away. She wished it hadn't. In its place, there stood what she could only guess was a man. The limbs were long once was a man. The limbs were long and inhumanly awkward, with bulky joints branching off into several arms, not unlike the branches of a tree. The creature was draped in a black suit, somehow making the thing more nightmares to her. The icing on the proverbial cake, however, was what passed as the hellish thing's face. It was as though her mind blurred the ghastly visage to spare itself further shock and horror. She shoved herself away from the door with the hand still pressed against it. The scalding mug of coffee fell, the liquid burning her bare legs as she fell backwards and tried to crawl from the door. She knew, somehow, that her mind hadn't been playing tricks on her. As she crab-walked away from the door, she watched as tendrils as black as the void she first saw snake around through the cracks. The girl was trapped between the instinct to flee and the gut feeling to not turn her back on the door. When the door jolted, the urge to flee overcame her, and she slipped in the burning liquid as she tried to make it back to her room. She knew deep down that she was trapping herself in a corner, but she had to get away from the door. The girl was halfway down the hallway when she heard the previously locked door creep open. She screamed and slipped into a wall, cracking her chin on it and stunning her. After that, there was only blackness. Nicole? A warm male voice snapped the woman out of her trance. As she turned around, she was met by one of her sister's doctors. She nodded, not sure if she should say anything or even if she could find her voice if she did have something to say. That morning, she had gotten an urgent phone call from the hospital saying that her sister, Lindsay, was there. Before they had even let her see her, the doctors had pulled her off to the side and insisted that they talk to her about what might have happened. Phrases like self-inflicted and assault had been thrown around, and Nicole felt her mind reel. She still hadn't fully understood what they had been saying until she saw Lindsay with her own eyes. Her little sister had a bandage wrapped around her head, covering both of her ears as well as her eyes. They said it was to keep her now deadened eyes from drying out and to try to keep infection out of the wounds Lindsay had made to her ears. The doctors had guessed that either she or someone else had jammed a pencil into them to keep her off balance or to deafen herself against something. There was a mix of first and second degree burns on her hands, legs, and feet. Just to say, Lindsay is the person from, that saw the Slenderman. I'm just gonna say that because it doesn't really... It's kind of confusing, but yeah. There was a mix of first and second degree burns on her hands, legs, and feet from what was assumed to be the coffee her neighbors found slipped all over the entry to her apartment. As Nicole walked into her sister's hospital room the first time, she thought she had spied the silhouette of a man in the window. That, she knew, was impossible. Her sister's room was on the third story of the hospital. Slenderman, as a little youngin' that I was like 5 or something, this one really affected me. I was terrified of this. I swore I could have seen it out my window every now and then. I was that scared, and it was real. Yeah, that's basically how any 5-year-old exposed to this stuff would have been. But when I found this one, I was really young, as stated before, so it definitely affected me as a child. My sister, who I will not name here, we'll just call her C. She found this one too when she was little. She found it before me though, because I found it in 2017. I was pretty late to the party, but still, it was still pretty popular then. But yeah. Looking back, all these years later, ever since I first heard that story, the time between, it's been a long time. I still think that this story holds up pretty well, as in, it could scare someone. It really could if they weren't given the information that it was false, or if people with supposed proof, like people claim to have online, were to show them. Um, Slenderman actually caused a whole bunch of real world problems, um, which I will get into detail here in a minute. Okay, I'm probably only going to talk about one of these incidents, and it's because it's probably the most popular story, and it's probably the worst. And yes, I'm just going to read this off Wikipedia. Don't hate me. On May 31st, 2014, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, in the United States, Anissa E. Wire, born on November 10th, 2001, and Morgan E. Geyser, born May 16th, 2002, lured their friend Peyton Leutner into a wooded area of a local park and stabbed her 19 times to appeal the fictional supernatural character Slenderman and prove that he was real. All three girls were 12 years old at the time. Leutner survived the attack after being found by a cyclist, later stating that the attack inspired her to pursue a career in medicine. During their interrogations, Geyser was described as displaying no empathy, and Weyer was described as displaying guilt for stabbing Leutner, although both stated that the attack was necessary. In 2017, Weyer and Geyser were both found not guilty by mental disease or defect and committed to mental health institutions. Weyer received a sentence of 25 years to life, and Geyser was sentenced to 40 years in life. Weyer was released in 2021 to live with his father. Geyser is due to be released in 2025. That's this year, to live in a group home and will be under supervision until 2058. The stabbing generated extensive public debate about the role of the internet in society and its effect on children, and a moral panic occurred over the Slenderman, which irreversibly altered the Slenderman legend and the community surrounding it. The stabbing inspired the documentary Beware the Slenderman. I saw that. Or I haven't seen that one, but I've heard of it. I saw the movie. Like, they made an actual movie based off Slenderman. It's terrible. Don't watch it. And it inspired the movie Mercy Black and several books. That Mercy Black, that's not the movie I saw. I'm pretty sure the one I watched was just called Slender or Slenderman. I'm curious about this Mercy Black movie. And I didn't know there was books. But this was just something that happened in real life because of the whole Slenderman thing. People were scared after this, and I'm pretty sure it's why things about Slenderman being quote unquote real started being said more often. Um oh, and I don't know if I said this, but it was in 2014. I said that. Yeah, I did say that. Okay. But yeah, the other effect that Slenderman had on the world is it definitely boosted the creepypasta community's popularity, and it inspired many other creepypastas. And as stated earlier, it inspired the Enderman from Minecraft. Now the whole teleporting and the tentacles, which I think were there just set as arms. I'm not entirely sure where those started, but I was just reading the original creepypasta. Slenderman, the story, not the actual Slenderman, not actual Slenderman, but you get what I mean. Not the character. That would make me sound insane. The story of Slenderman means a lot to me, and it did back then too, because it honestly, it's what got me into like creepy content and horror movies and all that sort of thing. It really, yeah, it was like my first, not counting Sonic EXE. We do not count Sonic EXE. It was like my first exposure to this kind of thing, and it's what made me learn about ones we'll cover later in the series, like Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, and Red Mist. I'm gonna say Red Mist because I don't want to say the original name of that one because I don't know if I'll get like taken down or something. I don't know how it works, but yeah, in my opinion, the story of Slenderman definitely holds up to this day. It could scare people, as I said earlier, especially if they weren't giving context that it was fake or if they were shown those things that supposedly proved he was real. It could definitely scare someone, especially if they were little. But I feel like it could even scare some adults, probably. But I don't know. Back then, it was scary. It was like the scariest thing that I had ever heard in my life, and I was terrified. And I would always look out my window, and I would lie to my friends, saying, "Oh my God, I saw Slenderman last night." Um, yeah, it scared the crap out of me when I was little. But these days, it's not really that scary, but it could scare people, as I've said twice earlier. And yeah. Okay, so I'll be ranking these based off like um just my honest opinion. Did I like them? Now and then, all that stuff, just like in my opinion. And since we covered Slenderman, we'll be only doing Slenderman in this video. But honestly, I have to give him an S. He was the best creepypasta I ever heard that I can think of right now. These are some other ones we're going to go over at other points in time, like Sonic EXE, Candle Cove, Dead Bart, Cartoon Cat. I think that's Eyeless Jack. I made this tier list. How do I not remember? Jeff the Killer, Laughing Jack, Rushing Sleep Experiment, Siren Head, Red Mist, Cooper, Family, Falling Body, Photo, and Smile Dog. I'll probably send the link to this, but yeah, that's where Slenderman will go for now.